Hello everybody and welcome back to Nerf This Patch. I'm glad to have you on. It's been a really fun week. I've beaten a bunch of games this week, surprisingly. I beat Life is Strange 2 finally. I've almost beat Crash 4. I beat The Last of Us Part 2 again, and starting Mad Max, which is, surprisingly more fun than I thought. So, I've been playing more than I usually play, and I'm just really excited to talk about video games because today we've got a doozy. So, let me start with this. I usually don't care about a lot of features that consoles give you. I care about 4 things, and number 1 every time is video games. I only care about the games. I care about playing great games. Everything else to get there, I don't usually care about. But when I get a console, there are 4 things I want to be able to do very easily. Number 1, is it easy to find my games and play them? Number 2, is it easy to go to a store, find what I want, and buy those? Number 3, is it easy to get on party chat? And number 4, is it easy to change the settings and optimize things the way I want? Everything else I don't really care about. So the PlayStation 5, they showed their user interface, and the first thing that came to mind was, holy shit, I don't care about half of this shit. I don't care about almost all of it. The way that they showed this, made me extremely skeptical that they don't understand the point of, simplify everything. I know that cool features, whatever, that stuff's awesome, but when you really want to have a successful dashboard in your console or whatever, make it simple. Make it very simple. Don't throw a bunch on here. It's one of the reasons why I cannot stand the Xbox One dashboard. It's too cluttered. There's a bunch of shit that doesn't need to be there. It's hard to get to anything. The store is atrocious. Everything about the Xbox One dashboard I hate. And this felt like that. Look at this. Look above on this thumbnail here. The game icons are this small. What? You're showcasing everything else on the bottom. It looks like a fucking ad, and I don't want to get a bunch of ads on my console. I know it's inevitable, but I don't want most of my screen to be ads. I want them to be about the games. I want ease of accessibility. It just looks cluttered. And even in the games, that showcase they showed with Sackboy, where oh, here are cards that can show you your progress. Look at this shit. Who cares about any of this? Do people actually use this? Do people actually go on their games and decide, you know what? I wish I had a bunch of cards to show me my progress. What are you talking about? Why do you need this? The only thing I thought that they showed that looked pretty good was you can stream a game and put it on the corner and with your friend, and you can both watch each other's games and chat. That was it. Everything else looked bad. Everything else looked bad. The PlayStation 4 dashboard is simple. Here are the cards, here are the games, here are the features. The store is always on the left. You go up, you can see the party chat, you can see the settings, and now it's just too much crap thrown in front of you. Oh, if you want to see what's going on in the news, you can see this. If you want to see your progress in a bunch of games, you can do. Why the fuck do you need any of this? What happened to just keeping it simple? What happened to making sure that the games were always prioritized as opposed to all this other junk? And, the share features in PS4 and all that stuff, that's cool, but it's not a main feature, and it's not shoved down your goddamn throat like this was. This was them just saying, oh, our user interface is so intricate and has so many more features, and I don't know anybody who cares at all about any of these. I sure as hell don't. I just want to play video games. And the fact that going back up, if my icons are this small, how am I going to enjoy this? Oh, well, you can highlight the game and it'll show a little dashboard. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that. This is just a cluttered mess. There was nothing about this I saw that was man, I really can't wait to use that feature. None of it looked good. I think that give it to Nintendo. Give it to Nintendo for keeping things simple. This is how you get to your games. If you want to get to everything else, it's easy to get to. And we're going to get into dashboards that I like and dashboards that I can't stand. And I already talked about Xbox, but we'll get into that. But man, this looked bad. This looked really bad. I couldn't care less about any of this stuff. Just, you're trying to build hype for your console. And I get it, if it just displays with the most basic dashboard possible, it doesn't look good. But you know what looks better? Having great games to show off on your console. People care way more about that than being able to see your progress in certain games. And that's not even going to work for a lot of games. That's really only going to work for devs who decide to do that. And God forbid, I don't know any devs who would be like, we should add more programming time so people can check their progress instead of just not doing this, saving money on the development, and just let people look it up online. Oh, we believe that people need to see their progress on screen. Sure. So they can find this little secret in Sackboy that was right there that they couldn't spend 10 seconds looking up. Look, I'm not saying I know better for Sony's sake. They have like huge research teams that go into developing this, but I'm not impressed. I'm actually like kind of turned off by it. I think it looks like stupid. I think it looks very features, 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 and I don't care about any of those features. I care about video games. I care about playing video games and getting to a store and buying games and talking to my friends. That's it. Everything else on here just looked like a mess. And maybe I should have known better because the PS4 was already kind of drifting in that direction with a cluttered mess. But man, if you saw that and you were excited for the I don't know what you were looking for, and I have no idea. Like, I have no idea how you could ever have enjoyed that. I mean, good for you, I guess, but that looked really dumb. It ruined a little bit of my hype for it because I don't want to like slog around a mess for a dashboard. Keep it simple, keep it to the point, make everything easy to access. God, it was so disappointing. I was so pissed when I was watching it. I'm like, why do we need half of this shit? I don't know anybody who gives any fucks about half of it. So, whatever. So we should transition and be a little bit more specific about dashboards that I do like and dashboards that I can't stand. Because I'm not all negative Nancy over here. I do think there are some dashboards that do it very well. And, you know, it's funny because I thought that a lot of my dashboards that I was going to like were going to be specific consoles or specific, like, developers, or, like, I thought they would all be Nintendo. There's actually a bunch of both that I hate on all of them. So there's some from Microsoft I love and hate, Sony I love and hate, Nintendo I love and hate, and then a few other ones. But, you know, let's just get into it. Let's get into the ones that I really like. Number 5 best, I think, is the GameCube one. Now, I know there's not a lot to do with the GameCube because there wasn't much functionality outside of just playing games and operating a memory card, but there was something about this one that was so slick. First off, the boot up screen was cute, it had a really fun tone, and this menu was really cool, like the way they would twist the cube and you could go into the memory card. Like, simple, to the point. I thought it looked really cool, I thought it sounded really cool. It made the GameCube like one of the like more slick consoles at the time. I was a fan. This one's one of my favorites, easily. I know I talked it a little bit, but I think the PS4 did it right, and I still think it's doing it right. Now, it's getting a little addy for my taste, but again, everything's right there in the center. So if you want to show all your games, you want to go to the store, you hit the L1 button, it takes you straight to the left, it's always there. And it's featured in the center. If you just want to keep your games and you just want to display games, you can put them right in the center of your console. The themes is really cool if you like to customize a little bit here and there. You can add folders. Like, I enjoy this one a lot. This is the best PlayStation 1 that they've ever done. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get much better than this. This is simple. This is to the point. You can always just hit up and go to the settings or go to your party chat and notifications. This is where it's at. If the PlayStation 5 showcases what we're going to expect for the near future, I wish that there was a way to bring it back to this. So, I'm not a fan, but I love the PS4 one. The Nintendo Wii one was really cool. Now, it is a little annoying to get to the settings, but I actually thought that the dashboard for like the channels was a really cool idea. The Wii Remote had great functionality for what it was, and like navigating was really easy. And you know, there was something about featuring what you wanted on the front. Like, look at the Virtual Console games here, right there. Click play, move them with. It was easy to organize everything. The picture mode was really cool. The shop was the best part. There's some channels that are like worthless, like the news channel and the weather channel. But at the same time, though, like, you didn't want those, you can move them to the side. You could do whatever you wanted to. Like, it felt like a channel. It felt like navigating through TV channels. I thought it was really cool. You know, the message board's kind of stupid, but overall, like, if you cared about playing video games and you just wanted to access your games, this was one of the better ones. I think it's a super underrated dashboard. So, you know, kudos to Nintendo for doing it right. The original Xbox 360 dashboard was so cool. Now, I remember when I first got my 360 and, like, the tab, I would call them tabs, and just, like, navigating between them and seeing all these features. It was still easy to keep track of where you wanted to be. So if you wanted to focus on games, you could focus on games. Everything was separated that way. There wasn't a bunch of clutter on the screen. It was obvious where you were at all times. This was one of my favorites. I really enjoyed this one. I was really mad when they converted to the new one. Even though the newer one on 360 wasn't that bad, this one was always my favorite for an Xbox brand. And it's kind of a shame that they got rid of it, but man, this one was the best. I loved this one. Finally, when I talked about simplicity and I talked about accessibility and just doing what you want to do easily, this is the best one. I know it's a weird choice, but everything is right here. You want the apps, the games, they're all right there. the shop, the photos, the controllers, the settings, the power, the time. Like, everything is so simple on this one. It's like, oh, there's no features. Good. This is all you need. You could do everything you wanted to do on this perfectly. Now, I know there's no voice chat, but whatever. Like, you can use the Nintendo app or whatever. The actual UI on the Nintendo Switch is perfect. It works perfectly in docked mode. It works perfectly in handheld mode. I wish every console looked like this. It doesn't need to be flashy. It doesn't need to be, you know, pump ads at you. You can go to the newsfeed if you want to see ads or whatever. Like, this is as good as it's ever going to get, in my opinion. And it works for a handheld and for a console. So I don't think we're ever going to get better than this, and this deserves its due. All right, let's get to the worst ones, man. PS2. So this one's funny because there really isn't a user interface for this, but this is more of a, you know, cross your fingers, and if you saw this menu when you put in a game, it really sucked. So, you know, if you ever had a PS2, you probably remember, like, you had discs that were scratched to shit because those were the most worthless discs you ever had, and you put it in your console and you put the blue, like, disc button and you just crossed your fingers and hope that your game was going to run and it was going to boot, and if it didn't, it took you straight to this menu and you hated it, and that's why it's the worst user interface, because every time you saw it, you hated seeing it. You never wanted to, you just wanted your game to boot. That's why it's worse. It's not actually bad, but man, I hated seeing this when I was trying to boot up PS2 games back in the day. Okay, the original DS was cute, but man, its UI really sucked. First off, the entire first half is all a calendar, and I don't know anybody who actually gave a shit about, you know, organizing their calendar or using this as a clock or a watch or whatever. Like, get out of here. You have 2 slots, so if you wanted to boot a DS game or a Game Boy game, you could choose between the two. I don't understand why it, like, takes up so much of the screen as well. The settings is like a little icon on the bottom. You have the download play, which no one ever used because you would maybe download like Pokemon bonuses or whatever. And then PictoChat is like the cutest idea that is so worthless. Like, I don't know anybody who actually used this. Like, if you had no games and you were bored, you would just draw on it. And it didn't even look good then. Like, I know it's primitive. They've gotten better since. I'm not trying to like hate on it for what it was, but like, you gotta call a spade, and this one's just not. It's not good. Sorry. The PS3, as much as I love the PS3 for its software lineup, the user interface sucks. This may be the worst shop ever. So you find your game, and then you download your game, and then your download is in like a game tab that you now have to install separately, but you can also decide to move it to something else, and then like everything's on like a horizontal pane that goes vertically from there. It's not like the PS4 is now, like, you had to pick the lineup and then you had to go down and find it, and it's just a mess. I hated this one. I know it's like based off the PSP one, which, you know, whatever, it works okay for that, but for PS3, like, this was awful. I hated whenever I had a game that I wanted to buy on either 360 or PS3 and it wasn't online and it played, I'd usually get it on Xbox because I just hated dealing with this. Like, the PS3 UI is easily Sony's worst, and I'm so glad they slightly got away from this because this was a headache forever. This isn't just consoles, by the way. Steam Big Picture Mode is an absolute failure. I don't know anybody who actually uses this. When I tried using it, it never worked. When I did go into it and try to play games, like, nothing was ever, like, everything about this just pissed me off. It just didn't work. And even when it did work, it wasn't fun to, like, navigate. There's a reason why that nobody uses this anymore. The normal Steam user interface is totally fine. Trying to get this on, like, a big screen for the very small percentage of people who give a shit about playing it on a big screen, you give them this and it's just a nightmare. Like, it never worked the way you intended it to. It was never good. It was hard to buy stuff on it. It was hard to navigate to your games. It was hard to go back to normal mode. It was hard to do anything on it. It got in the way, and it's a cute idea that just never worked. Hated it. Glad it's basically gone. I know it's still a feature, but man, this sucked. I know I already talked about it, but god damn, there's nothing good the Xbox One dashboard does. Nothing. Everything I talked about earlier about, like, annoying ads or annoying features and hard to find anything, every complaint I've ever made about a dashboard is in the Xbox One dashboard. It's hard to find anything. Party chat is so much more difficult than it was on 360. All the games are all over the place. There's ads everywhere. You can't even get to your Game Pass games easily. Like, even downloading games was annoying to navigate. The tabs on top are really, you know, cluttered, and you can't really find anything. Searching for games is bad. The store is a joke. the settings, like getting to the settings is already annoying enough. And that's why like the settings menu itself is probably the only good thing about this dashboard. The pins clutter everything. It's hard to remove pins. It's hard to organize everything. It's hard to do anything on this. This is by far the worst dashboard ever. And you know, there was an update today. Like, what was it? Today is October 16th, and there was a new update to make it more like vertical or make it more like the Xbox Series X is gonna be. And I downloaded it, and it's still a mess. Like, I hated it. And the store looks worse. Like, people think that I'm just hating on Microsoft, but I don't know anybody who genuinely likes this dashboard. It's by far the worst. Everything about the games is lost in here. It's all about pumping a bunch of random crap in front of you, not knowing where you are half the time. Everything's unorganized. It's the complete opposite of the Switch. Instead of making things easily accessible and fun to get to, it makes everything you do on this dashboard a chore, and it's the worst. I hate it. It makes me not want to play Xbox games. That's how bad it is. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. You know, the PS5 coming up and the Xbox Series X, I'm still hoping for, you know, a big push that some of these games are going to really blow me away, but man, both dashboards just, yeah, no, not a fan. So let's hope that I'm wrong about this and they're more simple than I thought they were. So we'll see what happens. But thank you guys so much for joining me, and as always, keep on gaming.